That actually worked, didn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Fauna Radio. And we got Nico from the Frog Lab. He tests breeds everything in the back there. So, Nico, introduce yourself. Tell me what you do.
So, I'm a frog breeder. You can see I got a few tanks set up here. And basically, I just put the frogs in the cages. They do their things. And, I make tadpole babies, raise them up, and then go, then shows. And, yeah, actually, I'll probably be showing you guys a few, hopefully at some point during the show, if you guys are interested.
Oh, I'm sure we will be. I'm sure we will be. Frogs are fun. We're streaming on a few different types of pages. I'm actually streaming on a leopard gecko group that I was made admin of. So leopard gecko people on that page, let's see if they're watching. We have 14 people watching from that page.
Okay.
Wally Kern is here.
Oh, I got to get on the chat. Oh,
Wally,
no.
all right. I know Wally.
Wally.
There's
How you
Wally.
doing, buddy?
Yeah, Nico, you were in the island this last show, weren't you? You were on the Gecko Island.
Yeah, I got to hang out with all the gecko people. And, I mean, there's not really too many frog people, so the gecko people have kind of brought me in as one of their own, so that's been kind of nice.
He is one of us.
But,
that reminds me.
There's definitely some overlap. Or go ahead.
There is some overlap. You held a Enchi, not gosh dang it, I'm having a brain stop. Lychee, a lychee. You held a lychee. I seen it on TikTok.
Yeah, that didn't go so long.
But you did good until it jumped.
Right? Yeah, apparently from what everyone on TikTok was saying, that she thought I didn't probably taste too good, or I think I might have just been a little too spicy. So yeah, she licked me, and then after she got a taste, she didn't really want any anymore. She just jumped off, basically just said, "F this, I'm out of here." So
they're like, "Yeah, we're done. It's over."
Yeah, it did not go well. But the good news is that the gecko was fine. It did a 360 backflip and just landed right on her mom's knee. So it definitely didn't hurt the gecko, which is good. So
that's awesome.
Especially considering I know those things aren't very cheap from what I hear. So
lychees aren't cheap.
No.
Man, oh man. So I know Andrew's got some questions, don't you, Andrew?
I'm writing them down as we go.
Go for it. Shoot them off. Nico is an expert.
Okay. Well, here's just a couple quick questions. We're going to start off basic. Like, what got you into into frogs?
So I've always been into reptiles, just kind of more like stuff you would see at Petco as a kid better. So, you'd go to Petco and see all the bearded dragons and corn snakes. And, that was always what I had as a kid. And probably about 5 years ago, I went to Sewerfest and met a guy named John Roberts. He was like the guy, pretty much the only one doing dart frogs for all the, Wisconsin shows. And I stopped at his table, and it really, like, I don't know, something about them just really got me, like, thinking, like, I could really see myself doing this. I ended up getting 2 of them. And then it pretty much just kind of snowballed from there, just, going to the shows, picking up a few here, a few there. Then I started getting on the Facebook groups, and then that's when it gets dangerous, because then you got people all across the country, selling stuff. And now I have probably somewhere like around 200, 300 frogs, maybe, if I had to guess. I honestly don't even know at this point.
Now, do you find these Facebook groups like sometimes crazy with people like you're doing that completely wrong, and they completely go crazy on you?
Every day. Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to go on Facebook and not see somebody with a different opinion. I mean, I don't really get into it. I don't post very much. I'm actually kind of just do my own thing. But I guess that's probably something you see with every type of hobby. I'm sure it happens with leopard gecko, crested gecko, whatever. Somebody who just comes into the hobby doesn't really know exactly the proper way to do things, because there's so much I wouldn't say misinformation, but there's so many different ways of doing things that, you know, it's hard to know exactly what the proper methods are. And then usually what happens is they come onto the Facebook page, and it's kind of sad because they're always so happy, like, oh, look at my setup. And then you have like 10 people jumping down their throats, like, oh, you need this, you need that. And so yeah, you definitely do get quite a bit of that.
So where would you suggest, like a newcomer who's just coming into the hobby, where would you suggest they get the proper information so that they can get the best experience out of there? Because, you know, if people go on Facebook and then they get these people jumped on their throat, and it could ruin the hobby for them.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, no, I would say the best places would probably be Dendroboard. It's a website that's been running probably since the early 2000s, if I had to guess. But I'd say it's not as booming as it once was. The community isn't as big, but there's still a ton of information on there. Some YouTube channels can be pretty good as well. I know Troy Goldberg is a pretty big YouTuber that seems to do a good. I would say those are two really good sources. And then hopefully at some point I'll start doing my own YouTube videos. So far I've only done TikTok, but I'd like to do a lot more informational videos. Hopefully this spring and summer.
What's the name of your TikTok so everybody can go check it out?
It's the Frog Lab.
It's actually really cool. My wife loves it. Laura loves it, Nico. I'm telling you.
I know she's always hyping me up. She's probably the reason why they get clout, because she's liking them, you know. But yeah, no. Tell Laura I appreciate the TikTok love. It's nice.
Well, we were talking, and when we first met you, you remembered one of the first things you said to me was like, "I don't really like being on camera." Do you remember?
No, I don't. No, I don't. Like, this is like, even for me right now, this is kind of like, I don't know.
And but to be honest with you, your animal quality is amazing. Your knowledge is amazing, and you never push anyone away. They could ask the same question over and over, and you're good with it. I just think you're one of the best frog breeders I've seen that go to shows, and the quality. I mean, I love my frogs from you. I mean, they're my buddies.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm a pretty patient guy. You know, I see how most people are like that. You know, they want to help people out, especially if you're you know, selling animals. I think it's kind of like your responsibility to make sure you're going above and beyond, helping people, answering all their questions, because you're basically putting the lives of those animals in their hands. So I feel like, if anything, you owe it to the animals to make sure that the people that are taking them are getting the, you know, proper care. So I think that's just really the driving reason for me why, you know, I do that stuff. When people ask me, like, I don't know, the same questions over and over, it really doesn't bother me, because I know that they're trying to do right by the animal. I'd rather have that than somebody just not say anything, you know? So that's kind of it for me, I guess.
What do you think the one biggest mistake newcomers into the hobby do?
I would say one of the biggest mistakes most people do, and I'm guilty of this myself, is not getting leaf litter. That's like one of the most overlooked, but one of the most important aspects of keeping frogs. Just because a lot of people won't use that, and what happens is the substrate will end up sticking to the frog's skin, which can really stress them out. And a lot of people think, oh, leaf litter, like that doesn't sound that important, but it's pretty huge. So I would say that's one of the biggest. The other is just probably using the wrong substrate in itself, and maybe not using a drainage layer. Having a drainage layer is also pretty important.
See, now that's stuff I would have never thought.
Oh yeah.
What substrate would you recommend then?
So there's a few options. One of the big trends that a lot of people have been doing is using foam. I haven't really tried that, but it seems like most people who've used it have had success. The probably the most like tried and true method is using like I said, a drainage layer of some sort. There's a few different methods, but ABG, it's short for Atlanta Botanical Mix, is probably the best substrate out there. You can experiment a little bit. You can kind of make your own. I'll sometimes, if I can't get ABG in, I'll make a mix with like cocoa fiber and peat moss and charcoal and sphagnum moss and some type of bark. But there's a few different kinds, but I'd say ABG is probably the best.
Wally has a couple good questions.
Sure. Oh, we can put them up. The first one was a best couple of beginner frogs. Do you have any beginner frogs that you would recommend?
Sure. As a matter of fact, I could probably show them to you right now if you guys want to.
Let's roll. Yeah, we can actually do this right here.
Because I can tell these guys they look like they're ready to be on camera. So let's see what we got.
I'm gonna do.
Wait, did it freeze on me?
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
I'm trying to make it where.
Oh no, I can change my camera, I think.
Oh, you're fine. I'm
Wait, can you see me?
You see a little symbol, not you. There you go. I guess we can see you now.
That's weird. My screen's frozen.
We lost him. He'll come back.
Yep.
So we had some technical difficulties, but we will be back. Let me go ahead and message him real quick and say, hey, jump back into.
Yeah, that's what happens when you do live, though. Anything can happen like that.
He's trying. Nico is amazing. He is just. That was a loaded question. There he is. We're back. We are back.
I just had to reset the. All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna switch over to this one.
Let's see here. I want to mess with my stuff, and we're just go ahead and do this. Lost him again. We lost him again. That's okay.
That's all right.
Hey, we're having technical difficulties, guys. It's not a big deal at all. He's really trying to show us the frog cam. I like that, Wally, the frog cam. That's actually what I want to start doing with this show is take you guys into my... There he is. Boom. Let's do this. There we go.
All right. So... here's a really good beginner frog. This is Dendrobates tinctorius, and this is the locality called Patricia. But there's so many different varieties out there. But as you can see, these guys are super. Okay, oh fuck! All right,
he's running away, dude.
All right, we're good. All right, I'll just keep this close for now. You can see they're not shy. They do not. They get pretty excited, especially when I come up to the tank. Usually because they know that's when it's time to eat.
They're getting their flies.
Yeah, they're getting their flies. Like you can see, they're like right up here, ready to go.
My giant orange do that. My giant orange, I think, would bite my finger if I let them.
Oh,
now
for
that
sure.
is really cool.
Yeah, so I mean, the reason why I think they're such a good frog is because they're obviously pretty bold. They kind of are pretty interactive. They're not super shy usually. The only downside with these is you really can't keep more than a pair together. Females especially will be very aggressive. So I usually recommend doing a 1-to-1. Sometimes you can get away with 2 males and 1 female, but even then it's kind of risky sometimes. So I would say for most people, this would probably be my number 1 or 2 best beginner frog, just because they're super chill, super pretty. There's like I wouldn't say unlimited, but they come in so many different varieties. And super. So that would probably be my first one. Another good variety would be the Terribilis, which you also have, Gary.
Yes, them are pretty cool. Them are really cool.
Them are stoners.
Yeah, for sure. These are the mint locality. So
that I was gonna say mine don't look that way.
No. You have the oranges, which
yes,
I have. Let's see, right over here.
Yep, there's mine right there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not scared of nothing.
No, they are super bold. And I really think that's just because they're so poisonous in the wild that they pretty much have no fear because they don't really have very many predators. So I can usually, like come at them and they don't flinch.
They don't even care.
No, they don't.
Wally's asking, what kind of enclosures are those, and what size?
So these are actually custom enclosures I made out of tubs. They're not big. Honestly, I probably don't know if I'll continue using this size. Oh, I got some eggs in here.
Oh, look at that. Pretty cool. Yeah. That is so awesome.
All right, I'm gonna hold up 1 second. But these are a 32 quart Sterlite gasket container.
Okay.
And they work. I mean, you can see the frogs look relatively healthy. They're breeding. But I would probably say I actually have a different size over here. That's, I believe, a 54 quart, and I feel like this would be a little bit better for an adult pair or something. And you can see these definitely.
They're running away.
Yeah, these ones are a little bit more shy, but this is a pretty decent size. They don't look too bad either, considering it's a plastic tub.
I think it's an amazing setup. I love it.
Wally, to answer your question, no, I have never kept frogs.
I don't know all the names of mine. Nico probably knows all the names. I have a thumbnail frog that's red with I forget the name of them, but they breed like crazy.
Probably the Santa Isabels.
Yes, Isabels, and they breed like there's no tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
But they take care of their babies. Do the other ones, like the giant orange, take care of their babies too?
The giant orange. That's a good question. I don't think so. They won't really take care of them so much. I think their kind of deal is they'll lay like about 20 tadpoles at a time, and then just kind of let them fend for themselves, I guess. There are some. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, because the Isabel ones, I can catch them like I don't know if they're pooping in there, what they're doing, but they're feeding the tadpoles, and then they transfer the tadpoles from like little dishes to other dishes.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure. I honestly, what's funny? I don't even have those as breeders. I do have a few froglets, but I haven't really been able to observe their breeding behavior because I don't even keep them.
Yeah, there are a lot of shy.
Yeah, there are a lot of dart frog species though that will actually lay infertile eggs, and they'll raise their tadpoles just by feeding them eggs. And some of them,
that's what they're doing.
Yeah, and there's actually some where I can't even pull out the tadpoles. I have to let the parents raise them. You can't feed them a commercial mix of fish flakes or tadpole food. They just have to get that source of protein from their parents for whatever reason.
Wow.
So,
there's a Facebook user who says they would like you to do a video on how to make those enclosures.
I told you, man.
Right here?
Yeah, that was once up there, yeah.
The plastic tub one?
User that wants to punch you in the face.
Oh, there's a Facebook user that wants to punch me?
No, that's
Andrew
talking to me. She wants to punch me.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
that wasn't.
What did I do now?
No, it wasn't you.
Sorry. What do? They don't know me. Uh-oh. We're in trouble.
Yeah, no, them enclosures. Them ones there with the sliding glass that you got in them plastic tubs, them are pretty cool.
Yeah, I like them just because for me they work because they hold in fruit flies really well, which I'm not a big fan of fruit flies escaping everywhere. Also, they hold in humidity really well, and when you have this many tanks, it gets really hard to miss every day. So with these setups, I can probably go maybe 2 days, maybe three.
That's huge.
So
yeah. Go ahead.
What kind of water system do you have hooked up to these? I mean, I'm sure you use like RO water of some sort, right? Or
yeah. So I actually have a RO system in my basement. I don't have it hooked up to my actual misting system. I have to run the RO system, fill a bucket, and then dump it into the reservoir. But I have, it looks like about maybe 12 tanks hooked up to a misting system. So that helps cut down on the spraying that I have to do. And for misting, I would definitely recommend, if anyone wants to go that route, to use a Mist King. That's probably just the best on the market.
Yeah, we got some Twitch users, but he's asking, it's the doors. How do you attach them to the tubs?
I guarantee not many.
I'm not sure, Nico. Do you want to tell them what you do with them, or you want to wait?
I could explain it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Basically, the frame on the inside, there's 6 screws that hold all 3 pieces together, and then there's just like a little, I guess, like a part that's cut out where the glass slides in and out. I have a YouTube video that kind of shows the installation process. So it's,
I was gonna say, you need to do YouTube, just like everyone said, but you need to do YouTube. You do a very good job of educating.
Yes, those tubs, first off, are amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know. I know, like we were talking about, there are some people in the hobby that kind of have like I wouldn't say like a better than you, but they've kind of looked at me funny when I told them that I keep my frogs in tubs. So it's like, well, you didn't even get a chance to see them, but for me, they work great. So I think it's just one of those things. Some people, for so long have used the big glass enclosures, which obviously do look a lot nicer, but when you're starting to get into the large scale breeding, it does make it a lot easier, more efficient, and the animals seem to do just as well in them. So it's, for me, it's worked out pretty well.
Wally and I talk about this every time. If the animal's breeding, they're eating, and they're healthy, you're doing something right.
Exactly.
So
now, with I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah,
Gary.
no.
I'm sorry. With those plastic enclosures that you built there, how do you get? Do they need UVB light? Those frogs?
No. So the really nice thing about dart frogs, and honestly, this is probably the biggest reason why I started breeding them, is just because they don't really need UVB. They don't need heat, and that's always been kind of like something I don't like dealing with. All the expensive UVB bulbs after a while. Basically, these guys just need proper temperatures, humidity, food, and then proper supplementation. So the biggest thing for them is just getting calcium with every feeding, and then vitamin A every 3 to 4 weeks or so. And that's really all they need to thrive. Using that system, there's frogs that have gone on to live 15, 20 years.
That's insane.
Wow. Yeah. So now there are some people that will use UVB, but I've only mostly heard that being used with some of the really high-end dart frogs. There's some species that are like in the upper $800,000 a piece range, and some people will use UVB. And even if you were to use UVB, it probably wouldn't hurt, as long as you still had probably proper, like, decent foliage, and as long as it didn't get too hot, or if it wasn't too strong. It might not hurt, but from what I've heard and seen, it's really not necessary.
Which makes sense, because they're on the bottom of the forest floor and not much light gets through, not UVB light anyway. So do you have this in your house, or do you have this in a separate building, or in a shed, or what?
No, it's my second bedroom. Yeah. So, but I actually am going to be moving. Oh, what was that?
I was going to ask, when you're breeding them, does it ever get noisy? Like, does it ever keep you up, the noise that because I know some of them do chirp.
Oh yeah, it can get pretty loud. Even the ones that are known for being super, super loud, it's not that bad. I mean, I can hear them from my bedroom, but it's not obnoxious. Or at least I don't think so. I like it. The other nice thing too is they're not really calling at night. They're usually calling during the day. I'd say probably it starts around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and then usually around dusk when the lights are about to turn off is they call again. But it's pretty rare that I'll hear them calling at like 11 o'clock at night or midnight. It's almost never happens.
You got a question, Gary?
They're not Pac-Man frogs. I was gonna say all my frogs do the same thing, but they all got different chirps too. It's like once you get to know it, it's like, oh, this species chirping right now, and that species chirping.
So, is for somebody who wanted to get into this, what would be the first steps you would recommend that they do other than research? Because I know research is the absolute most important thing somebody needs to do is research on the species that they want to keep. Where would you begin to get into this at?
Well, honestly, I would say one of the best places to go is to a local expo, and talk face to face with the breeders. That would be a really good place to start. Or even just maybe join a Facebook group, because it seems like all across the country, no matter where you look, there's usually a few keepers somewhere. So I would say that would be the best place to start, is either Reptile Expo or join a Poison Dart Frog Facebook group, and then just maybe reach out and say, hey, is anyone in such and such area, and find kind of like a mentor, someone who can kind of guide you through it. And then honestly, that's probably going to be the cheapest place to get frogs too. Usually you can find some good deals. So
and then you're addicted. That's what Nico did to me. Gave me a really good deal, and then I was like, oh, these frogs are cool.
yeah that's usually how it goes. Someone's like, oh, here, tell you what, I'll hook you up with these, and then you get one, and the next thing you know, you want to get this color, and oh, this one looks cool. So
I know a few people that do that to people with everything in general. Just like, here, try these for a while and then see what you think.
Right. I'll be honest though, there's worse things you could, get sucked into. The dart frog hobby hasn't been too bad.
So how much time do you have to spend in that room on a daily basis on average?
I would say maybe like 2 hours every 3 days or so.
Oh, that ain't too bad.
No, it's not.
I want to trade you.
Yeah, considering, I work pretty much a full-time job, and I wouldn't consider myself someone who's like a super hard worker. I'm a little bit, I'd say, kind of lazy. So it's really not that time consuming. I'd say it maybe takes me about 40 minutes to mist everybody, maybe another 40 to feed everybody, and then making fruit fly cultures is somewhat time consuming, and then feeding the tadpoles. I'd say probably about 8 to 10 hours a week. But if you're someone who only has maybe 2 setups or something, you could probably get away with like an hour, like a couple hours a week. It's really not that labor intensive. At least I don't think so.
What's the biggest problem that you have keeping all these? Is there one thing that really you would love to try to figure out how to get by? Try to figure out how to fix?
Honestly, well, that's actually what I was going to kind of talk about. I'm actually going to be moving my whole room to the basement, just because the biggest issue that I can think of being for most people is just keeping the temperatures below 80 degrees. Honestly, even 78, I usually don't like to go much higher than that. The one thing about these frogs is they do not tolerate heat well. Once you start getting into like the 78, 80 degree temperature, it could kind of start to stress them out a little bit. Past that, you can really start seeing them kind of like shut down, and then 85 plus is where it can become fatal. So in the summertime, to keep this room cool with all the LEDs, even though the LEDs run pretty cool, it still does heat up in here. So the biggest thing for me, honestly, the biggest obstacle I have to overcome is just keeping it cool. And usually what that means for me is running the central air all summer, which my energy bill really climbs up in the summer months. So that's why I'm moving them to the basement where I could probably, manage that a lot easier.
So what would you consider the optimal temperature to be for that room with all those different species of frog in it? Like, what would you want it to be?
Probably like 70. 70 is pretty good. If the room is 70, it's probably like 72, 73 internally in most of these tanks, which is pretty much where you want to be. I'd say the lowest I'd want it to be is probably around 68. I mean, they can tolerate temperatures cooler than that, but ideally 70, 72 is like kind of the sweet spot.
Wally, I'm glad you caught that little jab, buddy. So, like, you said you don't know how many frogs you have. How many different species of frogs do you work with there?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say probably like 35, maybe. I mean, I think I did count at one time, but I'm constantly getting new stuff in. I actually just picked up a few new ones yesterday. So I don't know. It's not something that I guess focus on. I guess my big thing is just taking care of the animals. But yeah, I honestly haven't taken the time to count in a while.
Do you have any species that you really like to work with compared to any of the other ones? Is there like one that's like your top species that you're like, this is the greatest one ever?
Yeah, I would say for me, it would probably just have to be the terribilis. I was just telling somebody today that stopped over that if I were to get rid of, my collection and move on from the frog hobby, I'd probably still keep those guys like with me. They're just super, they're pretty, they're always out. They have really fun personalities. That would probably be like my forever frog if I had to pick one.
Well, do you have is there like a species that when you got it, you were like all anticipating it, and then it was like, wow, I didn't see this coming, like a shocker to you, like something they do or something that you weren't expecting with them?
I mean, I think one thing that shocked me, most people who keep frogs run into this at some point. You almost never see it. I mean, I have, like I said, hundreds of frogs, and I've only seen it happen once or twice, but usually in the early mornings, these guys will eat their skin. I don't know if it's every morning, but supposedly it happens quite often, but they'll shed their skin and then eat it. And when you see it happen, it just looks so weird because they're like in really awkward positions, like hunching their arms. And then you see all this stuff in their mouth. It's just really kind of gross. And if you don't really know any better, you're thinking, oh my God, my frog is dying. So that was
I
kind
have no clue.
Gary's like, I got to set a camera up now.
Yes.
Right.
I had no clue that happened.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you see that every once in a while. Someone will catch it and go on the Facebook thing and like, oh, somebody help, my frog's dying. But it's just a weird habit that is
I never
you don't really see.
I would have been contacting Nico like, my frogs are dying. What's going on with them? There's a disease.
Right. But yeah, no, some of the things that these guys do are pretty cool. I mean, honestly, sometimes I'll, just be opening a tank and then see like a baby pop out of nowhere. That's always kind of a surprise.
That's cool.
Really. Yeah. I mean, there's not, I should say I don't know because I'm not a reptile breeder. I don't know how often it is that you just open up a cage and see babies, but for me, being
not very often breeder, with reptiles,
pretty cool to see. Yeah.
Other than morning geckos might be the only ones that do that.
Well, unless you have a bioactive setup with crested geckos and they lay eggs somewhere and you don't know it, and then So, where do you see yourself in the hobby in like 5 years from now? And where then to that, where do you see the hobby being itself in general in 5 to 10 years?
That's a tough question, but I do think that the hobby is definitely growing. I'm I'm still surprised, or I guess I shouldn't be too surprised because I thought this as well, but I still, do the shows, and most people who come up to my table have little to no idea, that you can even keep dart frogs as pets. Which, it's probably a good thing because I don't think people should jump right into it. And I don't know if they're a good fit for selling at a lot of the big box pet stores. I've seen some animals not, housed correctly, but I do think more people are starting to come around to the idea of like the whole bioactive setups, and it seems to be like it's on the upward trend. So I definitely see it getting bigger. And you know, I mean, if you just look at the reptile expos, there's not a lot of dart frog breeders. There might be like me and maybe like two other people that have tables compared to, a lot of the snake breeders and gecko breeders. So it's still pretty niche, I think. It's a very niche pocket of the reptile hobby. And I think it will get bigger. That's my guess.
Wally Kern has a question. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. I apologize for that.
No. That's fine.
To really get down into the details, what supplements do you recommend?
The ones that I've always used have been Repashy Calcium Plus. I use that with every single feeding, except for when I use the vitamin A. And for the vitamin A supplement, I use Repashy Vitamin A. It has the dart frog on it. It's pretty hard to miss. So usually I do the vitamin A once a month for my froglets, and then for my breeders, when they're in a heavy breeding cycle, I'll usually do it every 2 weeks, maybe sometimes every 3. I'll kind of rotate out a little bit. One really important tip that I'll throw out there for the vitamin A, it's usually a good idea to swap it out every 6 months because it supposedly does lose its effectiveness once opened. So there are other.
Yeah, I used to do that with the gecko stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what other animals really need the vitamin A, but there are a few other supplements on the market that I've heard work pretty well. But for me, those have been my two that I've used, and I probably should switch it up and maybe try a few others just to get some different, nutrients that I might not have in those. A few other ones that I've heard good things about are Dendrocare, and then I think it's called Ranovite or something like that, or Ranaria maybe. But yeah, there's a few.
Do you have like a breakdown of cost? What it would cost to set up just like a pair of frogs? Like, do you have like excluding the cost of the frog itself, like just the enclosure, everything you would need to get started?
Yeah, I would say you're probably at a minimum looking at least 150, and that's if you went with something like a 10-gallon with like a glass lid, and then maybe bought from someone at like a reptile expo. I'd say you could probably pick up a decent, grow out 10-gallon for like, probably about $100 to $200, somewhere in that range. The nice thing with that though is, I mean, once you get the tank set up and you get the plants and you get everything, the microfauna, the isopods and the springtails, it's kind of self-sustaining. So the initial upfront cost is where you're going to be spending most of the money. Once you have that, it's relatively cheap. At that point, all you really need is to make fruit fly cultures and to buy the supplements and, maybe water if you're buying, RO water or distilled water from the grocery store. It's not very expensive after the initial setup.
So people could do that, use distilled water instead of having an RO system?
Yeah, that's something I did for probably like the first 2 years. But obviously once I started getting into this many tanks, it would have just took a ridiculous amount. You can also use, treated water, like with a dechlorinator. The only thing with that is sometimes you can still get a lot of calcium deposits on the glass, which, might build up over. So that's why some people recommend using the distilled.
Is there any like diseases that you have to really watch out for that could spread from like tank to tank, from enclosure to enclosure, pretty
sure.
easy?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I could go on, but there's quite a few different ones, different parasites. That's why it's always a really good idea when you're buying from someone to quarantine for a while, and then if you really want to be thorough, you could even get them, fecal sent in. Um, One of the big viruses out there, or I think it's actually a fungus, is chytrid, which is like doing a lot of damage right now in Central and South America, where a lot of these guys are from. And unfortunately, I wouldn't say a lot, but a decent amount of dart frogs are still being exported. Some people do still export them. So it is possible that it is being introduced into the hobby. So if you are looking to get into dart frogs, I would really try to stay away from anything that's wild caught, because I would say at least 9 times out of 10, they're coming in with parasites. And if you don't have somebody who is treating them, you could be introducing, all kinds of parasites into your collection. So, and even if you do, get your reptiles from a trusted source, it's still a good idea, to quarantine from a little bit before you put them in your, nice big setup that you spent hundreds of dollars on.
Wally wanted to know, 3 plants that every dart frog in enclosures. Should each enclosure have 3 different plants in it?
I'd say at least 3 plants. There's a few that I like to use. I mean, there's so many different varieties of plants that you can use, and everyone kind of has their favorites. A big one that most people should keep, or at least I do in most of my tanks, is the bromeliads, and that is these big flower-looking ones that you see in the back here. I don't know if you can really make that out.
Oh, I can see it.
Yeah, those are found all over Central and South America, and they look really nice. One tip about plants that I wish I would have known: a lot of people who start off in the hobby they want their tank to look super lush, really fast. Like that's the thing. They want it to look really nice, really quickly. One mistake that I found with that is if you have these plants that grow super quick, it actually ends up being a lot of work trying to keep them maintained and managed. And usually what ends up happening, instead of looking like a really nice jungle, it kind of grows into like a big weedy mess, unless you're really taking the time to prune it and manage it. So, I usually recommend people get a few more of the rarer plants that are a little bit more slower growing, because in the long run, they're going to be, it's going to be worth the wait. You know what I mean? You're going to end up with something like this where I maybe only have to trim it every 6 months or so.
Wally made a mistake. He wanted to know top 3 plants.
Oh, okay. So I'll tell you the top 3 plants. For me, I was going to say I could probably show you guys, but Margravia is probably my favorite species. If you do a quick Google search, they're not cheap. Usually the cheapest one is going to run you like $15, and then they can easily get into the $40 to $70 range for, a 6-inch clipping. Maybe if you're just getting started, I wouldn't recommend that, but once you get comfortable growing the plants, that's probably one of my favorites. Another plant that I really like is called Polinia repens, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I'll grab a little piece and I'll show you what it looks like. So the reason why I like this one is because it looks pretty cool. It can have a lot of variation. It can look green, or sometimes under certain lighting, it can look even, let's see, it can look purple, or it has like a really dark maroon color. So it has a lot of variability, and it grows quick. It'll fill in pretty well. but it's not super aggressive. Like the root structure is really shallow, so it's not going to dig into your background and dig into the substrate. And then when it's time to prune it, you're not ripping everything out. So it's really easy to prune. Like I can literally just snap it with my fingers, and that's it. And then the third plant that I'd recommend, I'd probably say begonias. I do like my begonias. One of my favorites is probably the Raja or Raha. I don't know exactly how it's pronounced, but those are probably some of my favorites.
Now, is that all you work with is dart frogs, or do you have do you keep any other species of amphibians?
Honestly, it sounds bad, but I do not do well with tree frogs. I've tried red-eye tree frogs. I've tried White's tree frogs, and they just it's very different type of setup. It just hasn't gone well for me. And not only that, but they're nocturnal, so for me that it just doesn't really do much for me. The reason why I like the dart frogs is because they're out during the day. So I honestly haven't really gotten into the whole tree frogs. So yeah, mainly just dart frogs.
Maybe
have you ever
geckos?
Maybe one day geckos. Have you ever thought about Gary said maybe one day he'll get you into geckos?
Oh, geckos! Maybe. I mean, maybe we could work out a trade or something. I probably should switch it up a little bit.
But remember the heat thing. But I'll let you win.
Yeah.
I'll take a pair of frogs from you.
Well, you know where to find me. I'll be at Sewerfest.
That's right.
So, have you ever thought of any kind of newts or salamanders or anything like that?
I did almost bite on, I don't know if they were salamanders or newts, but they were all black with these little yellow dots all over them. They're some kind of aquatic newt or something. And I did almost think about it, but I don't know if it's just if I don't want to have to worry about water changes really, but it just hasn't gotten to that point yet. I mean, I feel like there's so many other dart frog species that I still want to work with that I haven't even gotten to that point yet. There's still just so many other stuff. Eventually, I would probably like to get more into the higher end dart frogs. Those ones that I was talking about that can get into the $400 to $600 range.
You wouldn't think frogs would ever go for that much, but it's just amazing. Now, when it comes to breeding, is there any special things you have to do to get your frogs to breed, or do you have is there different things that you have to do for different species? And in a room like that where you got so many different species, is it tough to organize it so you can do it all if they all have different requirements?
Yeah, the nice thing is, for the most part, they really all kind of have the same requirements. They all do well in that 70-degree temperature. Usually, if you want to get them breeding, you want to make sure that you're supplementing well, and then also feeding, enough. It does seem like if you're not feeding enough, they won't really produce. So you kind of have to power feed a little bit more to kind of get them going. And there definitely does seem to be seasons, or at least cycles, where they'll kind of go off of breeding for a while and then come back on. But no, for the most part, it's really not that hard. As long as you keep them well fed and supplemented, they'll kind of just do their thing. For certain species, like the Ranitomaya, which are the thumbnail frogs, usually I'll put some film canisters in their enclosures, and what they'll do is they'll just lay eggs and then carry the tadpoles to the water source. For the bigger frogs, like the Tinctorius and the Terribilis, I'll usually put a petri dish in there, and then I'll put a little hut over it, and they usually just lay eggs right in there. And then what I do is I take those petri dishes and just incubate the eggs, and then when they hatch, I'll put them in a cup of water. So it's not a difficult thing to get these guys breeding.
No, from tadpole the breeding age, how long does that usually take on average?
So
I'm sure a difference.
Sure. It can vary quite a bit. Most tadpoles usually take anywhere from 4 to 6 months, depending on how you raise them. I'd say 4 months is a little bit more on the average side. Once they come out of water, I'd say it could probably take about 8 months for some species to about a year and a half. And then for the terribilis, it can take almost 3 to 4 years before they reach sexual maturity where they can start breeding. So
Wow.
It does vary quite a bit between the species.
Now you said you're moving your room to a new room. Is that going to give you more room to expand?
Yeah, it is. So I'm pretty much going to have like half of the basement all for frogs.
So is there like a number to where you're like, I just can't get, I better not get more than this? Like, this is my limit? I say that with Gary shaking his head. I'm the same way when it comes to stuff like no, but I don't know when it comes to.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to say. The biggest thing for me is I've just been trying to make it more efficient for myself. So like I said, the whole tub thing has really helped make it easier to make sure the animals are fed. Because with these exoterras and these aquariums, a lot of times the food, or I should say the flies, will escape. So that means I have to do a lot more feeding. Or like I was saying with the humidity tends to escape. So with the tubs, that's made it a lot easier to keep the humidity up, to keep the food in, and that's made it easier for me to not have to do as much of all that. So yeah, I guess it's hard to say exactly. Just finding that balance. I honestly don't even know. I'd say I could probably expand a little bit more, and then I'll probably have to, slow it down a little bit.
I'm at that point where should I work anymore? That's where I'm at.
Do you ever would you ever like to get to that point to where you could just use this as a full-time job?
Well, it's kind of something that I kind of even got a little bit of a taste of during 2020. I did get laid off, and I wasn't working for about 8 months or something, and pretty much the frogs was all I was doing. And now that I'm back working, it is kind of nice, almost like having this as like a getaway from everything. Whereas before it was like just kind of like this was my life, and I don't know, it feels weird to just have the frogs. I guess it almost felt. I will admit, at some points it did almost feel like a chore. And that did kind of affect the way I felt about the hobby itself. So I don't know. It almost seems like it could be kind of a blessing to do this for a full-time job, but also kind of a curse in a way. I feel like I actually appreciate them more now that I don't have full access to them day in, day out, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yep.
Doing the shows, Racine is like right next door to you. But traveling, Just traveling to shows, is it different for packing the frogs? I mean, my geckos, I can put them in a tub, they're fine. But let's say like a 2-day show, did you have to mist your frogs that night?
Yeah, I mean, I just sprayed them down a little bit. They actually do pretty well, if they're packed correctly. I mean, obviously you would never want this to happen, but I know you've experienced issues with like FedEx where, they'll lose a package, and you don't know where the animal is. I've heard stories of people who have had packages go, 5 days or longer. And, the people open up the package expecting to find, dead frogs, but, they'll be just fine. As long as they stay within that 70-degree temperature range and they have enough humidity, usually they'll do all right. I've even heard posts on on Facebook of people having a tank that they thought was empty for, a few weeks, and then they go in there to maybe tear it out and find frogs that are still, just fine. So, when I was doing those 2-day shows, like at the Janesville, the frogs all seem to do pretty well. Knock on wood, I haven't had any fatalities, taking frogs to shows and then bringing them back. I'm sure it does stress them out a little bit, but they are not as sensitive as most people would imagine.
Because that's my biggest worry is setting them up, and taking them. Because I told you I have them, Isabels. I have tons of them. They just kind of have a big family in there. But I was thinking about bringing some to the Sewerfest show just to put on the table and get rid of like 10 or so of them.
I think you definitely need to do that, because I can't do it all by myself. Because like I said, there's so many people that come through the shows and don't have any idea about the dart. I think it definitely would be a good thing to have you kind of educate, the public a little more.
Yeah, because I want to do some, because my alligator lizards can't be heated at all. They're like at 65 to 68 degrees. But I can raise them up into the low 70s, and that would be perfect for dart frogs, and I can bring them down to this room. And I can, behind this green screen is an empty wall. I can just fill the whole wall. So,
yeah.
I'm hoping that my alligator lizard's digging, so hopefully she's going to give me some live babies here soon.
That would be cool.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
Have you ever thought of, setting up like one huge enclosure and putting a few different species in it, just so it looks like it's an actual little cutout of a rainforest where you can look at it and just admire it, type of thing? I mean, I admire all those enclosures you got behind you, but I'm talking like a really good size enclosure, like a huge one, just one.
Well, one of my goals is to have a greenhouse, like a full on like attached greenhouse, that's probably like, I don't know, like a small shed or something. And I've actually seen it done. I have a friend who I was just at their house probably 2 days ago, and it's just crazy. You walk in and it feels like you just stepped into Florida or something, or the tropics. And she has finches in there. She has tortoises and geckos, and she's kept them for years. It's just so big that they've all just kind of found their own little areas, I guess. And just last summer, some of the Isabellas, Gary, she put them in there, and they bred, and over the winter and everything. I was just there the other day, and there was tons of them. So it can definitely be done, for sure. That would definitely be a goal of mine.
That is something I would find very interesting.
That would be so cool. If you do that, you got to do a YouTube like series on that. Just like, hey, today we're going to go out and just, it's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
So where are you located at? That, because I know like where I live, I don't think I could ever put a greenhouse out and put anything in it. It gets 70 below zero here. I don't know how to even keep it above freezing.
Yeah. I live in Wisconsin, Racine, which is probably about like maybe an hour north of Chicago. So it definitely gets cold. I mean, I think not this past winter, but the one before that, it got down to like minus 50 or something, or minus 40.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it gets cold. I know what my friend does is she has heated floors, and then on those really cold days, she'll even have to put like heaters in there. The only thing about that is it's not cheap, I'm sure. That's going to cost a lot of money to make and then maintain. But I think if set up properly, it can be done even, in Wisconsin.
I think it could.
Oh, I would say. I suppose if technically somebody put their mind to it, they could probably do something like that pretty much anywhere if you really worked hard at it and, figured out all the technical glitches.
Sure. Right. And I'm pretty sure the glass is insulated as well, too. So I know they didn't cheap out when they built it. If you're going to do it in, a place where it gets cold, you're going to have to spend the money to get it built right.
Yeah, I think Racine got more snow this year than Green Bay did. I think
I did hear that. I did hear that, yeah.
Because we got nothing up here. I mean, maybe 12 inches, 15 inches, maybe total. It was like nothing.
I live in the Great North, and I only got 3 all winter long.
Oh,
if it wasn't for COVID, it would have been a nice winter to drive to the shows. Because the only show we've had is Janesville, really.
Right.
That's the only show. And now Sewerfest is back. I can't wait for Sewerfest. I can't wait.
Yeah, you know what, Gary? You're probably going to have to come out to my house.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
I don't see why not. I'm like 7 minutes away from the show. So.
Oh, then now he's going to be selling me frogs from the house. I'm not joking. He got me started.
So, have you ever had a friend come over to your house and be like, I had no idea you did this?
Yeah.
Or
I
a
would
family
say
member?
I have family members and stuff that come over, but I don't think they're prepared for what they're going to see when they walk into this room, because it's just wall to wall, tanks like that. There's not, besides like the little spot here and here, there's really no wall space. So it's a little bit overwhelming. Just today I had somebody come over from Chicago to buy some frogs, and I wasn't sure if they were going to want to come in, but they did. And yeah, it is just kind of cool to see people just look at everything and just be like, oh my God, look at the ones in here, look at the ones in there. I do kind of enjoy that a little bit.
I think the biggest thing is we see our own animals every day. So we're like, oh, it's just that. And when someone else comes in, it kind of gives us that energy like, wow, this is something different. It is something cool.
Right.
Because I enjoy the same thing. My Laura went down in the gecko room for the first time the other day in a long time, and she was like, oh wow, look at that. Oh wow, look at that. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, how many geckos are down here? And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
Probably more like you really don't want to know.
And you bag your own leaf litter. You sell the leaf litter too, right? At shows?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Because I was gonna say your TikTok video, you're bagging it.
Yeah. That was kind of a little joke, but yeah, I mean it does feel kind of weird to just, I just don't know. I have no idea that I'd be doing frogs and selling leaves. Like, it's just such a weird thing. But yeah, I never saw myself being almost 30 breeding frogs and bagging up leaves and selling it to people at reptile shows. Like, it's just kind of crazy that it's gotten to this point. But yeah.
That's a sign of good success, though.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I'm still breeding fly cultures that I bought off you a while ago. I'm still breeding them fly cultures from them originals.
Oh, for sure.
They just keep breeding, man. They just keep going.
You mean like in the same cup and everything?
No. I got.
That's what I was gonna say.
I ordered. I call it peanut butter. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. You mix it up and it looks like peanut butter to me. And the flies go nuts about it. And I just take some. I'm like, oh, I better start some more, and I dump some in there, and then they just make more flies. I just keep going with it. I have to say, as a pet way, dart frogs, after the setup, they're easy. After you get the initial setup, they're easy. And Nico walked me through it. If it wasn't for him, I probably would have killed him.
Do you ever have a?
It's funny because Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
You first.
No, I was just gonna say that it's really kind of counterintuitive, and I think the reason being is because most frogs that you get at pet stores, like the tree frogs and whatnot, are actually pretty difficult to keep. Like I said, I even had trouble keeping whites, which is kind of shocking considering a lot of people say they're beginner frogs, but I had a hard time keeping them. But I think dart frogs get a bad rap. They seem like they'd be super sensitive, but like Gary said, once you get the enclosure down, they're not really as fragile as most people think. They're not like snakes. You're not going to be able to go weeks on end without feeding them. They definitely do need food to stay healthy, but you usually I can get away with like feeding every 3 days or so. Maybe, go 4 days if the enclosure, like I said, has a good healthy springtail population. Isopods, that helps a lot as well.
Dwarf whites.
So,
oh, geez.
Yeah, definitely. The dwarf whites for sure.
Do you think people overthink it before a lot? Do you think they really get overthink it?
I would say that maybe before they get the dart frogs, they probably do. They can overthink, what does this thing need? Does it need heat lamps and UVB before they do their research? I see a lot of people on Facebook, will come on and ask stuff like that. But like I said, when it comes down to it, really what you need is just an enclosure that is going to maintain the humidity and not let it dry out, and then just proper supplementation and food and water, or I should say misting.
One other question: Do you ever have trouble with fruit fly cultures having the mites? Do you ever see the people who have the mite problem with those?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, if you don't keep it under control, it can get out of hand really quick. So basically, what I do is I have all my fruit fly cultures on top of the racks there, and you can't really see too well, but there's a powder right on the bottom. It's called diatomyceous earth or something. I honestly don't know how to pronounce it, but basically you just put a layer of that on the bottom. Yeah, I got a lot of them. So I like to put them in on top of it, and then space them out. And this creates like a barrier for the mites to pretty much stay contained or not get into new cultures. If you don't do this, they'll spread from culture to culture, and then they can really become out of control. So as long as you do this, it's not really much of an issue. And even if you do get a bad breakout of grain mites, it can be managed pretty easy just by doing what I just did there, putting them on a layer of that stuff in a container.
Oh, okay. So that sounds simple enough.
I do 3 cultures at a time. He's got like 80.
I was just going to say, yeah, he's got like 100 cultures up there.
Yeah, I probably do about 20 a week. So, and that's even compared to a lot of other people, that's not much. There's some people who are doing like 50 a week, or probably 100. It's nuts.
The frogs I got off you ate the same night. When I brought them home from the show and I put them in their cage, I was like, I'm just going to see. I don't think I've ever gotten a frog from you that's just like, they're like, yeah, I'll eat. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Do you ever have a problem with like overfeeding them? I mean, is there like a certain amount that you shouldn't like overdo? I mean, how does somebody know how much to put in with like a couple frogs?
So usually the rule of thumb is, if you put flies in and then you come back 3 days later and you still see a swarm of them, usually that means you're feeding probably a little bit too much. So you kind of want to be able to put the food in there, and then when you come back 3 to 4 days later, there's probably still a few, but you don't want it to be where they're just crawling everywhere, because when that happens, usually it's going to stress out the frogs because they're constantly being covered in flies, that can kind of stress them out a little bit. It's hard to say exactly how many to put in, because obviously it depends on species and how big they are. But one trick that I usually recommend for people is putting in a little bit of banana in each enclosure. And even if you do kind of overfeed, they usually congregate to that food source. And if you do overfeed, at least if you do overfeed, they're not gonna just crawl over everything.
Because I've noticed my pairs, when I feed, sometimes there is extra in there 3 days later. Now, the ones that have like 10 frogs, I think there might be 20 frogs in the Isabella cage because they're communal. Right. I can't feed them enough. They'll just keep eating. They just keep going.
For sure.
But my pairs, I'm like, oh, you guys look hungry. And I'm like, oh, wait. And I'll go in there. I'm like, oh, you guys still got flies in there. So I'm putting banana in there. That's a good tip. So yeah, I learn that every time.
The stuff people don't think of.
Sure. Yeah, and that also can help with the microfauna as well. The isopods and the springtails will, they'll love it. So it definitely doesn't hurt.
Now, with all your enclosures, they're all bioactive, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
isopods help.
It's just so easy to do. It just makes it a lot easier on myself. It's better for the frogs. It's not hard either. It's really straightforward. Once you do it a few times, it's really easy. At least I think so.
Yeah, I've noticed that I don't like my dairy cows. They don't do well in the frog cages. I don't know if it's too wet, but the dwarf whites, oh geez, they do great.
No. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and then the springtails do great. But my dairy cows, I got to start selling them. Wally yells at me too. You want some dairy cows, Nico? I'll give them to you. I'll literally bring them and give them to you.
Hook it up. Yeah, we can trade dairy cows for frogs.
There you go. But you're gonna produce. How many frogs do you produce a year?
Oof, that's a tough one. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's an insane amount. Maybe like 100 or something.
Really?
I honestly don't even know. Yeah, it's not anything crazy. Maybe a couple hundred. I don't know if I really.
If we had any washers, and you told me no.
I didn't know. I would say next door, maybe, where I would look.
So you have washers, and you just lied to me.
We'll do that. There we go. We got that.
So yeah,
I would say because you're a jack.
I would say probably like 150, maybe. If I had to guess, I don't know.
150 is a good amount, though. I mean, seriously, 150 is a really good amount. I mean, you produce good quality, and you said what, 30 plus species?
Yeah, maybe 30 plus species and localities. Yeah, I'd say.
And here's what Wally says: giant canyons. Do you have giant canyons?
You know what? I did. I put some in with my terribilis, and I think they might still be in there. But I'm not sure how well they've done. I don't see them a lot. So.
Oh, is this the small one?
Yeah, my favorite isopods is the dwarf whites. I want to get the purple ones. They're just a morph, right? The isopod, the purple one.
I'm not exactly sure if they're their own species or not, compared to the whites, but those are also really good. They're very prolific.
I mean, and I don't mind that the frogs eat them because they produce so quick, like you said.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the nice thing about the isopods too is once you get them going in one tank, eventually you can usually seed other tanks, or they're not even that hard to culture, So once you get them, usually it's not too hard to keep them going. But I will admit I'm not that great at isopods. Like that's not my my domain. I know some people like you can get your dairy cows to just explode, and mine I feel like they're just kind of chugging along, like just barely, just maintaining, I guess. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to come visit you and see. You can come
visit me anytime. The big thing that made my dairy cows explode, and I got to buy more off of Wally because I forgot the last show, is his like isopod chow. They go. It's like crack to them. I mean, you could just put a little, and they will come out from under things to eat this stuff. And I put it in there, and then ventilation. Wally helped me out, and I didn't have enough ventilation on it. I put ventilation on there, and it's just like I opened it up 2 weeks later. I'm like, where all these things come from?
Jesus.
Wally said if you started digging them up, you would find hundreds of thousands of them.
Oh, wow.
And dwarf purples are a different species. Wally is the isopod king, in my opinion.
I was gonna say, I didn't know for sure, but I knew I was hoping he'd chime in and get that settled. Because I'm not the isopod.
I haven't found a species to put because I'm trying to do something for YouTube, and I got UVB and UVA on a leopard gecko, and I have a natural enclosure, but I haven't found an isopod that will survive the gecko eating them. The gecko just goes nuts, and they won't eat the worms. They like the isopods more. I put 100 dairy cows in this enclosure. I think they're all gone. It won't eat worms, but it's eating those. And I'm like, okay, so we got to find something out here. I don't know. I like the natural enclosures. That's why I like dart frogs. You got me going. I can have them natural, and taking pictures of them are amazing. Setting up the picture, just getting a picture of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but you get the pictures of the rare stuff.
I wouldn't call most of my stuff rare. They're maybe uncommon, but you know, there's definitely some stuff out there that's super rare. But you know, I don't know if that necessarily is like really the main thing for me. There's just certain frogs that have a certain look that really is what I go after, you know. Like even some of the more like really expensive ones that I was talking about, the couple $1,000 ones, like some of them don't do it for me. Like they don't look that much different than some of the frogs you can pick up from $30. You know, they're just a much rarer species, but they almost look somewhat identical. So for me, you know, it doesn't seem worth it. Where there are some that are actually really super cool. But
have you thought about importing those rare species? Have you thought about trying to import those?
I don't know if I'd import them, but the nice thing is there are people that are actually breeding them in the States already. You know, they're somewhat established. You know, but the thing about those species is usually they can't lay, you know, they can't produce more than maybe like 5 to 6 froglets a year. I don't think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I might be wrong on that. Maybe they can produce more, but I know they don't produce nearly as many as some of the species like the terribilis, where you can, you know, get 20 tadpoles in a single clutch.
That brings up a good point that you bring up. It's not like dart frogs aren't like breeding Pac-Man frogs. Pac-Man frogs produce thousands, you know, and you don't get that with dart frogs.
When you walk in,
no way,
and you got the cabinet there, it's good.
So when you're breeding the dart frogs, you're just getting like, you know, 10 on average. Would you say?
Yeah, I'd say on average for like the Tinctoria species, you're probably getting 6 to 8 tadpoles a clutch. Now, like I said, you can get them breeding where they're laying every couple weeks, and then you could still get a lot. I know some people who will get like 60 or so out of one breeding pair, but I don't really get that type of production because I probably don't feed enough, where I'm pumping them full of food. But you know, you could still get a decent amount of production, but yeah, definitely not anywhere like, you know, some of the White's tree frogs where they're laying, you know, hundreds at a time.
Yeah.
Or like axolotls where I think they're laying 1,000. You know.
Exactly. I got a question for you. Wally's hit big one for you. What is the opinion in the hobby about crossing locations or crossing morphs? If I'm saying it correctly, like localities and subspecies.
Yeah, no. Dude, I can't. Yeah, you'll get blacklisted like that if you were to mix like in this area. Yeah, that is a big no.
So just like in leopard geckos, I don't like morphs being mixed, but subspecies doesn't bother me. But in your frogs, subspecies you don't do. You don't mix them.
Right. You do not mix subspecies. You don't mix species. You don't mix localities. That's like a huge no. And the reason why is because some of the localities are found in like small pockets of the rainforest, and you know they might only be found in that one area. So the thinking behind that is people want to preserve that specific locality. They don't want you to start mixing different localities just because, you know, who knows if they'll you know, be there one day, especially with all the deforestation going on. And the other point to that too is it just doesn't seem necessary. There's so many different localities and varieties within a you know, a species that it almost doesn't really make sense to have to mix and make more. There's just so many to choose from already. Now, you can kind of do morphs. So for instance, like the Azurius, those are the you know, the blue ones with the black spots. there are certain that locality. So you can have some morphs that have no spots whatsoever. They're just like straight blue, or sometimes you might even get oddballs. So that's a little bit more accepted. You can still kind of do morphs within a locality, but when you start mixing localities, that's where you're kind of, playing with fire, I guess.
So, I mean, and now the morphs and the dart frogs, are they recessive? Are they line bred? Is that a line bred thing?
I would say, yeah, I'm not a genetics guy, but I would say, yeah, that tends to be more of a line breeding thing. So I know there are certain lines of Azurius, like the Watley line, which would be kind of like I was saying, where they don't really have spots. They just kind of have like a blue, all blue back. But, you do get a lot of variety even within certain localities. So there's actually some that I'm working with that I am kind of, in a sense, selectively picking babies that have a certain look, but they're all the same locality. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I'm not mixing different worms, but so I think in a sense you can still kind of play around a little bit with that, but as long as you're not mixing species or localities, you might be able to kind of get away with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Totally. So, like, you could have your own line of a species and an own look. You can go after your look, and it'd be the Frog Lab look. That's what you're saying.
And now some people still do look down upon that, but you might just get a few people who are just like, oh, I don't like that. Versus like, whereas if you were to mix a locality, like they're gonna jump down your throat. You know what I mean?
Wow, it's gonna be bad. Just like gray banded king snakes. They're the same way. Gray banded king snakes. If you cross a street, you can't mix those two. Like an actual
they go crazy. That, like Wally said, it's best to keep it straight. Then
see everybody that's watching this and say I'm crazy about leopard geckos. I'm not crazy as frog people. No, I play it.
Probably not. No, like I'm not kidding. Like it's like a blacklisted thing. You will get shunned, if someone finds out that you're mixing, which, and honestly, yeah, from what I've seen I mean, I have seen frogs that are mixed or hybrids or cross localities. And they have their own certain look, but it just doesn't, it's nothing, super crazy, and maybe you could argue you could get something crazier, but I don't know. It just, like I said, it seems like there's already so many out there that it just doesn't really, it's not necessary, I guess.
In the wild, is there any species that cross over like territories and they kind of hybrid, like natural hybridize naturally? Yeah, hybridization. That's it. Their own in the wild?
I feel like maybe with Pamilio, which is a species of frog, maybe there is some overlap within localities. I can't say for sure. It is possible. I mean, some of the localities are very close to each other. You might have, only a few miles separating one locality from another, and that particular locality will have a certain look, whereas one a few miles away might have another look. And yeah, there might be some overlap. So I guess to answer your question, yeah, it does happen. But usually the way it works in the dart frog hobby is if something was imported from, say, like a particular locality, they try to keep that locality together. Even if, like I said, they were close together, it's not something most people would recommend doing.
Same thing with boas, but boas got mixed up. I used to say the same thing about locality of boas. Like BCI has your Nicaraguans, your Sonorans, your regular Colombians, your Central Americans, but they're all different. They are different. You could tell the difference, and but people mix them all together now, and it's like, But I like your point that if that rainforest got wiped out where that specific locality is at, we might be the only ones that have them, the captivity.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So,
yeah, I don't know if they would ever. Go ahead. I want to hear what Wally says.
No, he wanted to know if he could see more frogs.
All right, yeah. Let me get some frogs going because yeah,
Ribbit.
I think they'll speak for themselves. All right.
Let's do this. It's time.
Hopefully my camera doesn't mess up again. Every time I switch to another camera, it seems like the app freezes. Are we frozen?
No, you're moving. I think you're moving. You're kind of waving.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, this
look
is
at all those.
Wide
Look
angle.
at that.
Well, here, let me get a wide
setup.
angle of the room, maybe, so you guys can see. So this is where it starts. This is a plastic tub rack where I have a variety of adults, and then on the bottom there's a few other types. Then it circles around, and then around, and then more of my infamous tubs. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wow.
That's the room there. So yeah, let's see.
That is so awesome.
Now, your wife doesn't have does she help you out at all with this?
No, I'm actually I don't have a wife or a girlfriend or anything. I'm single, like a Pringle.
I thought you were married.
No. But no, I this is all me, man. I just do this all on my own. So okay, where should I start? I guess. So these are some of my not so great enclosures. These are just more of my oddballs that maybe I just have like one or two. Like for instance, in that 2 males, and this one I just have 1 female. So those ones, nothing to really write home about. Let me see. I could try to look into this tank, but we're probably not going to see anything. I have a little picture to show what is in there. These are a Piptobates tricolor Ciolito, and they're not super bright frogs. They're mostly kind of brown and gray with a little bit like of a minty spotting. And honestly, I don't really see them much, which is kind of a shame. But the nice thing about them is they'll just lay tadpoles. I'll just come in here, and I've already just like in the past 2 weeks probably collected about 20 tadpoles from there.
Wow.
Yeah. This is probably one of my favorite setups.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it looks a lot better in person, but let me see. I wonder if I flip it, will it readjust? So I don't know if you guys are really plant people, but some of these plants, one aspect of the dart frog hobby I didn't think I'd like so much is plants. So this was the species I was talking about, Macravia, which can, get into the $30, $40 range pretty quickly. So it's a pretty rare plant. The growth that you see here is probably taken about 4 months or so.
Oh wow!
Just to get that little bit. This plant right here is a pretty rare plant. It's Philodendron verrucosum, which can go for anywhere from $50 to $100 for a single couple leaf clipping. So pretty rare. And
there's
maybe
money
we can
in plants.
see the frogs that are...
There is money in plants. There's a lot of money in
the
plants, actually.
Oh, there's a frog.
There he is.
Yeah. So this is Dendrobates tinctorius motecho. And you can see they kind of got the yellow and black going on. Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty nice little setup, I think.
Now here's a question. I don't know if you've ever gotten this question before, but how do you tell the difference between a male and a female in most dart frogs?
So generally the females are going to be bigger. They tend to be a little bit thicker, as I like to call them. They also tend to have arched backs. That's probably the easiest way I can tell them apart. The females have like these big arched backs, and the males tend to have flatter backs. For some species like the terribilis that me and Gary keep, these are some mints that I have here. So I can tell just by looking at the throat of this one that it's a female, whereas the one in the back you probably can't see, but there's a dark throat patch. Kind of has
Actually,
like
I can see that on here.
Yeah, so that's because their throat gets so big that it just stretches out, and I think that's what causes the discoloration in their throat. So that's how I can usually tell them apart. The problem with that is it can take, like I said, 3 to 4 years, or like probably around 3 years before they start calling. Well, let me see. Maybe I can find a pair of tinks. So yeah, like these, you can see the female is just a little bit bigger than the male. She's just a little bit, thicker. So we're talking. I can show you. This is actually a communal tank. Now, most dart frog people, like I said, do not like any type of mixing. But one of the cohabs that is kind of widely accepted is dart frogs and mourning geckos. So I can see one right behind this bromeliad. I don't know if you guys can catch it, but you can see the belly right there. And then I just, and if you look right here, there's an egg right on the leaf there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm. That is cool.
Yeah, so so far from what I've seen, they've done really well together. I haven't had any issues. One thing that I found interesting on Facebook is people have kept these mourning geckos with the terribilis, and they've actually caught the terribilis eating the babies, or at least attempting to. Like I've seen pictures with babies just sticking out of their mouths. It's kind of insane. They will try to fit anything they can in their mouths. They are very aggressive eaters. So that's probably one mix that I would not do. We were talking about other frog species, and I actually forgot to mention that I do have glass frogs. I have a few of them. Yeah.
Them are cool.
So we'll see. I think so. We'll see if I can find one. Let me see. Oh, I see one. Right here on this leaf.
Oh, it is.
I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I can't zoom in.
That is
these guys,
awesome.
Yeah, it's really weird how they just sleep on the underside of the leaves. But they're not active during the day. They're pretty much always sleeping when I'm in here. Then up here I have a. Oh, I'm sure I will. Yeah, I have about. Let me see. I think like probably at least 10 of them, and then I have another tank as well with some smaller ones. But you can see these guys do like to climb quite a bit. You can see this guy just chilling up on the top of the tank here. Let's see. I guess I haven't shown. Oh, you know what? I'll show you guys. So I was talking about how these guys breed. So what they'll do is they'll lay eggs on the leaves, and then the tadpoles climb up on the parent's back and they transport them to water. So these are the tubs that I keep some of my frogs in, and you can see they'll just fill up these canisters with tadpoles. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah, look at that.
That is cool. And those are like film case canisters, right?
Yeah, exactly. Those are the film canisters. And then I made these little suction cup holders that just kind of stick onto the side. So that's made breeding a lot easier. I can, when I'm ready to pull them out, I can just pop them off and then, put them in a separate container.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's like one of the things that's made my breeding a little bit more efficient. So yeah.
That is cool.
This is actually one of the species that I was talking about that only the parents can feed them. So basically what they'll do, let's see if I can pull this out. So if you look inside the film canister, there's actually eggs in here.
I can see
that's what
that.
the little dots are. Okay.
Yeah, so like right under the tadpole there, you see there's some fruit flies in here. This needs to be cleaned out, but you can see those two little dots right beneath and on top. So they'll actually lay eggs in there for them to eat.
And they'll eat the eggs.
Oh yeah. So maybe we can find the frogs in here too. Let's see. Oh, there's one. You see him?
There he is.
Little red guy. So yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're super small. They're only about the size of my thumb nail, maybe a little bit bigger. So yeah.
We lost him again. He'll jump back on. Let me go back to that there. We lost him again.
A cool setup,
I'm telling you, he just knows what he's doing. There he is. We're back.
Yeah,
there he is.
Yeah, maybe next time if we do one of these, I'll have to have some videos ready that are pre-edited, so I can get you guys a
you get them to me. We can play them. I can play them in between. Yeah,
definitely.
I'm loving them tubs.
Yeah, them tubs are just amazing.
I mean, yeah, for just being, $10 plastic tubs that I picked up, they do a pretty good job of housing the frogs.
The plants are growing?
Yeah, you don't see very many people do that. Most people use like them expensive glass aquariums for stuff like that. But you have changed my idea on how to set stuff up.
Yeah, the thing that I did is I first kind of experimented, and maybe I only started off with a few setups like this just to make sure that, it was going to be viable. And after, I had my successes, I didn't see the harm in doing it, and it's ended up making just my life a lot easier. And I think it's allowed me to have more time to, provide for the frogs better. And you can see, actually, this is one of my grow out tubs. So sometimes I will put a few different types together, usually only when they're babies, when they're young, a few months. And that's usually somewhat accepted in the hobby. But obviously, once they start reaching sexual or even getting close to sexual maturity, you kind of have to separate them. So yeah.
Look at all that. Look at them. They're all coming out like, is it time to eat?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So yeah, it works for me.
It's amazing. I think it's awesome. And now I'm telling you, dude, you got to do YouTube. It's going to be amazing.
You would have an amazing following on YouTube. For sure.
Yeah, like I said, I'd like to have something where I can, provide information to people without having to individually message each person. Just have like a video ready to go where I can say, this is how I set up my tanks. This is what I recommend for this frog species or whatever. I think it would not only help the people, but save me time too. So I definitely just need to get on it.
Yeah, I shared your YouTube channel on Leopard Gecko Breeder Help because someone was asking about it, so I shared that link.
Oh, my YouTube?
Yeah, your YouTube with that video of how you set up the tank or the tub.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I shared that real quick. And visit him on TikTok. He is a TikTok star. I'm telling you, he's being modest.
I don't know. There's people with way more. I had like 1 or 2 videos that did pretty well, but otherwise, yeah, it's nothing too crazy.
It's still fun though.
No, it's fun. Honestly, I've been making videos since I was a little kid. Like I used to have like home camcorder movies that I'd make and show like my family and stuff. So I've had a little bit of practice making videos, but I mean, there's it's just something more to kind of share the frogs with people in kind of a more funny, comical way.
Yeah.
Okay. Wally Kern said, "Yeah, I was just going to say that."
No, go ahead, read it. I knew what you're going to read, so I hit it.
No, he's surprised that they're getting enough light and the
plants.
There's proof in the plants. That's what he meant. And did he miss? Like, I don't remember you saying either. What type of lights you use to get your plants to grow, even through the plastic containers like that?
Yeah, I'm surprised too that they do so well. But it's nothing special. All they are, and this is kind of my like a secret, but all it is just LED shop lights from Menards. They're nothing special. One of the mistakes that I made, when I got into the hobby was, I was spending I think some lights, some 4-foot lights, like the one I have. I don't know. Can you guys still see me? My camera's frozen on.
Yep. No.
Nope,
yep. You're moving.
Okay. Yeah.
No, now he froze a little bit, but snap back.
Yeah. Okay. So that light right there is.
Uh-oh. He jinxed himself.
Yeah. I know. Talking about lights, though, I know that the tarantula people, you can go on YouTube, on Amazon, and buy grow lights that are strips, and you can roll them out and tape them up.
Yep.
They're pretty cool.
Here you go. He might be reloading.
God damn.
There you go.
There you are.
All right. So yeah, that was like $115 light that I bought off of eBay, but all the rest of the lights, like the ones on this setup, are just, I think they were like $15 at Menards.
Wow.
So
that's a game changer.
Yeah, that's kind of been like my little secret. You don't have to go out and spend 100 or even some of the lights are like $50. That can add up when you're doing rack systems like this. These are just simple LED shop lights,
But
and you're probably. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you're probably gonna get a little bit better production if you were trying to go, grow fast. But like I said, when you have this many tanks, it can actually become kind of a chore when your plants start overgrowing the tank. It makes it kind of hard for the dart frogs to find food as easily. So it definitely doesn't bother me that, the plants aren't growing as quickly as if I were using some of those $100 really expensive LED lights.
Well, like I was just telling Gary while you were off there for a second, that on Amazon they sell rolls. A lot of tarantula keepers do this when they have their plants in their tanks. They sell rolls of strip lighting, like your little LED strip lights, but they're grow lights, and they're only like $20 for like 50 feet, and you put it up and run what you need.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, that would definitely that might be the next game changer. I might have to look into that.
Yep.
Yeah, the really nice thing about these LED lights too, the shop ones, is they're interlinkable, so you don't have those big AC adapter bricks taking up all kinds of space. These just kind of plug right into each other. So that's really nice as well.
That's
lighting. Yeah, I was gonna say what I do with lighting is I just bought a bunch of LED lighting, but I bought it for the show. You're gonna see it. I'll show you these. I got 2 for $40, and it came with tripods. And I thought they were something different because I'm getting 2 displays at the show too, but they're gonna work. But they're bright as can be. I think they'd light up a room.
Oh wow!
So I have to show you these because they have smaller ones. I'm thinking about now. You got me thinking. I should just put some dart frogs down here and buy some more off you at the show.
Gary's looking around like, I could put these over here and this over there.
I mean, they don't take up that much space, you know.
Not even
if you're already making the cultures, might as well.
Yeah, I got food. I just have to set up a tank or two, and I have them. Because one of my tanks I moved, and then I took away a 20-gallon away from some animals, and I put them into 30 gallons. And they're like, whoa, this is a lot of room. Because I wanted to have my alligator lizards have more ground space. So my 30 gallons are taller. And they climb. My blue ones climb all the way to the top. They just sit there.
How many of those do you have, Gary?
Just 2. I think I got them off you, didn't I? Yeah, the blue and black ones.
Yeah. And you think you might have a proven pair?
I don't know. I don't hear them call or the giant orange call yet. My Isabella's call all the time.
Sure. Those are the ones that call. Yeah, the Isabellas usually can reach sexual maturity at maybe 7 months, maybe 7 to 8 months. I think I could be wrong on that, but I know it does not take as long for them to reach maturity. So maybe the Azarius, you might have another 3 months or something before they're ready to get going. And then, like I said, those Terribilis can take 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, the blue ones. I do have one big one and one smaller. He's about the other one's about. I want to say maybe 2/3 the size. And then I just the other one was eating more. I'm like, why are you eating all the food? But they hide more. They hide more too. They don't like me. The orange ones, the giant oranges, they don't care. They come right up and they'll catch the flies when I'm dumping them. They'll catch them.
For sure. Yeah.
Here's a quick question I have for you. From the time you got your first dart frog to where you're at now, how long has it taken you to grow your collection to that size?
Maybe. I think in 2016 is when I got really started in dart frogs. Now, when I started, I got introduced into the hobby by a guy named John Roberts, and he eventually did get out of the hobby and ended up buying a lot of his collection. So a lot of the Terribilis actually came from him. So he kind of helped me get started. He set me up with a bunch of breeding pairs, a bunch of breeding groups. So that really kind of jump-started me into the hobby, especially, being able to vend at shows. I don't think if it weren't for him, I'd be where I'm at now, going to shows and selling froglets. I think it would have took me a little bit longer to get to that point, One thing I would say, if someone is looking to get into breeding, I would say, if possible, try to find proven pairs. Even though you're going to spend more money, it ends up just being a lot more efficient in the long run versus trying to buy froglets and then raise them up. I mean, you can do it that way, but you're probably going to, it's going to take a little bit longer to get going. One other thing I'll say too, I would try to avoid buying tadpoles. That seems to be kind of a growing trend that I see. And even though you can get tadpoles for relatively cheap, you can pick up tadpoles for $20 or so. Usually the time and the effort that it takes in raising them is just really not worth it. You're better off paying and buying the froglets. And on top of that, they're a little bit trickier to raise. So usually I don't recommend people buying tadpoles unless you want to see the metamorphosis and see them go from a little tiny speck to froglet to adult. Maybe some people do want to do that, but usually it ends up being a lot harder than most people think.
But I think you told me that when I first got into it. You told me the same thing. You're like, stay away from froglets. Not froglets, but tadpoles.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot from people who will come to my table and be like, oh, I spent. Some people will spend like $40 on a tadpole, which is kind of crazy to me. But then they'll say like only half of them made it or something, or even myself breeding tadpoles. I wouldn't say a lot of times, but it does happen that they don't all make it.
Is there any species that's not in America that you would love to have here in the hobby?
Yeah, that's kind of a little bit tricky question because I really don't like the idea of pulling out from like the wild, but in Europe they do have a few already established uh, species that would be really cool to have. One of them would be, I think it's called, I don't know, and keep in mind, I don't know if I'm pronouncing these right because I only hear them or I read them online, but I think it's like Excitobades or something like that, Mysterioso or something. They're these like green and black frogs with like a mint spotting, really pretty. Another locality that has just actually got imported from Europe is called I don't even know how to pronounce this one either. It's called Tumacum. It's a really weird name, and they're super pretty frogs. I don't know if I'd necessarily want them, but those would be kind of neat to have established in the hobby if it was done ethically. But honestly, there's already so many in the hobby that I don't have yet that you know, that I'd like to get my hands on.
So there's Christmas presents to buy you. Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and actually, there are some organizations actually located in like Colombia that I believe are working with really rare frogs that are being exported ethically. I'm pretty sure it's I don't know, Tesoro de Colombia is the organization, and they are working on raising captive bred animals in Colombia and then importing them into the U.S. So they're not pulling wild caught frogs, which does sit a little bit better with me, So
yeah, they just started
someday.
They started doing that with tarantulas too down there. They have people that raise them, and then they're not going out collecting them out of the wild. As they breed them, they can import them into the United States without decimating the wild populations, which is a good idea.
Sure. Yeah. Just there's already so many obstacles against dart frogs in the wild right now with the deforestation and then the chytrid fungus that it just doesn't sit right with me to pull more out from the wild than necessary, especially if it's not being done ethically.
Exactly.
So
you're right though. The forests are being torn down left and right. I mean,
yes,
it's getting bad.
There may come a time where the only place to see things like this are in collections like what you have there.
Sure. I hate to think that, but who knows? It seems like they're not doing as much as they could be down there with just people illegally just plowing through kilometers of rainforest. And that's the crazy thing, that some of the small pockets of rainforest, there might be species that we haven't even discovered yet that we may never get to see, which is obviously kind of sucks.
I should have thought of you and told you about my friend going down to Ecuador in May. It's $2,000 total to go down there. He had 10 spots. His name's Mike Clarkson. He does film for Net Neo and Animal. He does a lot of film for people. And he opened up 10 spots, and it's going down to Ecuador. And there's a lot of dart frogs on that way, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure, they definitely have quite a bit of frogs. And that's a really crazy thing, is that there's so many places down in Central America where you can see so many of these species in the wild. I haven't really got to travel much, but at some point I'm definitely going to be going down and seeing a lot of these guys in their natural habitats, which I'm sure would probably help me get a better idea too of what their needs are, or what I could be doing differently to maybe try to mimic their natural environment.
That's what I see you doing, is going down there and pulling that information and bringing it back home.
Yeah.
I mean, it would just be really cool. So we'll see what happens. I'll definitely be sure to record and maybe put a few YouTube videos or something.
Yes. Yeah, next time Mike's going to be doing these a few times. He wants to get over to some different areas in Africa and he's trying to put together like these 10 to 15 people groups and do package deals. And when he said Ecuador, I'm like, oh, that would be so awesome to go all the venomous snakes. That's what I thought. But the 2K is not really an issue. It's just the timing of it for me.
Sure.
But that would be so awesome. Yeah, it just maybe we both could go on Ecuador and just take film and pictures and oh my Lord,
I'm down.
that'd be awesome.
I'm down.
That'd be awesome.
Maybe I'll have Laura watch the frogs for me.
Yeah. Oh, she would go nuts.
Are there any books that you would recommend for people to read?
Oh, that's a tough one. Honestly, I'm not a book reader, but I know there are there's definitely a lot of literature out there. Most of the information that I ended up getting has come from Dendroboard. Like I said, that's a really good wealth of information because so many people have contributed to it. You know, people that have actually gone and studied these frogs in their natural environment. There's so much information up there. I'd say that'd be a good place to start, but yeah, I don't have too many recommendations for books, unfortunately. But I've seen a few documentaries. There's a few good documentaries out there. I don't know them by name, but National Geographic has done tons of videos on, you know, a lot of the species you saw. So yeah, that'd be a good place to start, I'd say.
Yeah, National Geographic is on Disney Plus, so yeah, Disney Plus, you can see all National Geographic stuff.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. That's where I go for wildlife. That's my dream, and I keep telling people is I breed on a large scale. Everyone knows that. And I'm sitting there like, I just want to do an educational center and then travel the earth and like take pictures. That's all I want to do. I don't even know if I want to breed anymore. You know?
Right. Yeah, and honestly, the cool thing is too is how many you know, animals do we have near us? I mean, not a ton, but you know, that'd probably even be a good place to start too. I mean, I'd like to go out and maybe learn a little bit more about frogs in Wisconsin or, you know, Illinois or surrounding areas. That's honestly something I never really, you know, I hear that a lot. People got into the reptile hobby by picking up tadpoles or picking up frogs, but I actually never liked frogs as a kid. I didn't really care for them.
Really? And now look at you.
Yeah, I know. Look at me now. So,
you're a member of the Madison Herp Society, right?
Am I a member? I'm not. I don't think I'm a member. I think I'm a part of the. I'm a part of the Facebook group. You know, I get to look at all the cool stuff everyone's doing, but I have not had the chance to join
because
yet.
we get you joined in there. There's a lot of people that go herping and can show you like the spots to see all this stuff. Eric Roscoe. Oh, geez, that guy herps every weekend. I think. He knows all the spots. A really good guy. And then of course Ryan and but yeah, we need to get you to be a member of there and just, you know, have you go out herping.
The Facebook user said that in Fort Wayne, Indiana, there's a rainforest dome. It has wildlife in it and stuff. So,
Oh, for sure. You know what? That actually makes me think. If anyone who's in like the southeastern Wisconsin area, if you go to the Mitchell Park domes, you know, if you're a plant person or you just maybe want to go somewhere that feels a little bit tropical, especially in the winter, they actually do have dart frogs in there, from what I've heard.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard of that spot. But,
no, I haven't. Now I'm going to be looking it up and going.
Yeah, but that's good to know too. You know, botanical gardens and stuff like that is pretty cool. I do hear that they a lot of times have frogs in those, you know, big setups and whatnot.
That's what I'm talking about. But is there any more questions? I mean, hey, Nico, we went 2 hours.
I was just going to say that to him. He said he couldn't do it for 2 hours, but here you go.
Look at this.
Yeah, I struggled a little bit, but, you know, I think I got most of the bases covered. Hopefully next time I'll be a little bit more prepared.
Hey, you're perfect, man. I'm telling you.
Anything wrong. I thought it was great.
I think you're a good part of the hobby. I think that your knowledge is there. You're friendly. You're inviting. You got me to take in frogs. If you talk to Mike Novi, you literally could tell him, I got Gary Orner to keep frogs alive, and he likes it. He'll be like, it's a different guy. Because I would look at him like, I don't want frogs. Nope, it ain't happening. And now you got me on frogs.
If I'm down at Tinley this year, I'll definitely bring it up. Hopefully he'll be there too.
Yeah, he'll be in Tinley. He told me he posted that he is going to be at the June one at the new area, the new place. Yep, he'll be there. He just did a big live too about frogs and breeding frogs and stuff, and he has stuff that I'm like, what in the world is that? I've never seen it before.
Oh yeah, dude, Mike. Yeah, I've seen his YouTube. Well, I've seen YouTube videos with him, and then he goes all out. Especially with, like I said, the tree frogs seem to be just kind of a whole different game. With what it takes to get them going. Especially some of the ones where they, need really specific temperatures and need running water and stuff like that. It's just nuts. That's a whole different level that he's on. But
and if you ever want to get him to do a kickback when you guys are joking around or something goes, just look at him and go, and now we're back. He says that all the time. Yeah, a funny story about Mike Novi is I want to say 2009, we were in Daytona. Him and his wife, Molly, kept me out of jail.
Oh, shit. So you guys go way back.
Oh, yeah. We were at Daytona, and I was, where everyone's drinking at the time, and I had Coronas. I broke a Corona bottle on the boardwalk, and then I told the rent-a-cop. Well, it wasn't a rent-a-cop. It was a cop. Well, I called him a rent-a-cop.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, it was a fun time. Mike Novi is just good, solid people all the way around. I mean, that guy's just good people. I would say in the hobby, he's one of the top 10, 15 minds in the hobby. He won't say it, but he is.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you just look at the species that he keeps, that he's been able to breed, that a lot of people haven't been able to. It just kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, we struggle to keep it alive, and he's breeding them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but Mike Novi's good people, and I hold you on that on that level because of what you've done, and you come in and you're just like, yeah, I got these. Your quality is fucking to no one.
I'm just a guy with a little bit of extra room in his spare bedroom. I don't really look at it as something like super hard. It's just something that's actually been pretty easy, I think. Like I said, once you get it set up, it doesn't seem as complicated as, like with him, he's having to change out certain enclosures every other day, change out the substrate, change out paper towels. Whereas I'm kind of just like coming in here 3 times a week, spraying and feeding, and then, feeding the tadpoles. Like that's really pretty much the bulk of what I do. It's nothing too crazy.
But you're passing that knowledge on to people, and I honestly think dart frogs are a good way for people to get in the amphibian world.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an easy setup. The initial investment's there, and then it's kind of cheap after that. It's kind of very cheap.
Sure.
The reason you say you find it like what you were just saying is because of you have a passion for it. When you have a passion for it, you end up being very successful and very good at what you do, and obviously your passion shows with your like them enclosures you developed up there and the way you have everything set up.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I shouldn't just tell everybody, it's the easiest thing in the world. I guess you're right. This is something that I don't mind coming in here and spending, 3 hours in this room, So that makes a lot of sense.
You've created a rainforest in your place.
Yep.
And now he's going to do half the basement. Wait till Sewerfest. I'm going to get him geckos. Watch. Here's a gecko. I'm just going to give him it.
I've never had a leopard gecko, so maybe I might just have to give it a shot.
Leopard geckos, they're easy, man. A 2-year-old could breed them.
The next video we do with him, this room will be all leopard geckos, and the downstairs will be all frogs.
Nico's going to kill me.
Well,
He's gonna hate
you know
me.
what? Every time I look past your table, I'm always seeing different morphs and stuff. I'm just like, kind of like, holy crap! Like that's a whole nother level of leopard gecko. You know, all these neon oranges, and I don't know. I could see you persuading me pretty easily.
I'm just gonna
Now that
bring
you're
him up and
serving
just
beer.
put him on your table and walk away. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna put them on your table. I don't know where they came from. You know, that's what people did to me in the last show. Miles gave me a knobtail, and I just looked down. I'm like, why is there a knobtail on my table? And I was like, I don't know where it came from. I'm like, shut up. And and I got rubber duckies at this show too.
Oh,
and,
shoot.
Oh, dude, I take care of these 6 rubber duckies like they're my children. I feed them Wally's. I got to get more Wally's food, but I put a little bit of food in there, and they come out and they eat it, and they go back under their logs. I'm excited about my rubber duckies, but it's just a fun time. I can't wait for Sewerfest. And you got a kitty. I got a cat, but I don't know where my cat's at. She was over here somewhere.
Yeah, she's just trying to get in on the camera, I guess. She's a lap cat for sure.
My cat sits there and wants to be in the gecko room because she wants to get the geckos, but I don't let her in there because she gets the geckos. I've had her. She used to be able to run the whole basement, and sad thing is, she got into bottom drawers and brought me them geckos.
Oof.
Yeah, I'm like,
that's never good.
And I'm like, how in the world did you get them out of the tubs? You know, and she just kept pawing at it until she pulled it out, and so she's not allowed in that room no more.
Yeah, and then she comes to you, look, Daddy, I brought you a present.
I just looked at her like, what are you doing? And I thought it was still alive, but it wasn't.
No, it sucks. Yeah, knock on wood, she doesn't really care too much about the frog. She's all about attention from me, which, whatever.
That's good, though. She's spoiled. Yeah. That's good. You're an animal person, so.
Yep.
Well, we kept you for 2 hours. We'll let you get back because I know you got your hours of work to do there in the frogs, right?
Yeah, I gotta shut it down. I actually gotta make probably my weekly fruit fly culture tonight, so that'll be on my agenda. Hey, maybe next time I'll show you guys how to make fruit fly cultures.
Yes, that would be awesome.
See how easy it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is just fun. Everyone enjoyed it. We've had tons of watchers. Twitch went up to 42 people on Twitch. Oh, Twitch is like, and then this stays up, and people just watch it and comment and comment and comment. And if you want the copy of the file to ever put up on your YouTube, I'll bring it to you. I'll give you the copy of the file.
Sure. I'll edit it. Maybe I'll put it on TikTok or something.
TikTok. See, I'm telling you, I need to get on TikTok. I just need to do it.
It gets a bad rap. It gets a bad rap of being nothing but 15-year-olds dancing or whatever. But there is actually a lot more going on. It's kind of grown on me a little bit.
I just need to do TikTok and show like geckos and just say, here's the gecko. Because you only have to do what, like 15, 30-second clips?
Yep. And you know what? There is a lot of gecko people on there. You'd probably do really good, Gary.
Yeah, because Jay Brewer told me to go on there too. He told me I had to go on TikTok. I was like, TikTok? And then I'm like, well, Nico told me to go on TikTok too.
It gets a bad rap, but it's not, like I said, it's not all what you see on the news or whatever, just people dancing. Like there's so much more on there. It doesn't. Yeah, and the scary thing is too, you can sit there on TikTok for like 4 hours. Like it's ridiculous how it figures out what content you're into. I don't know.
Did you ever see that commercial where the guy goes, you check TikTok for 15-second video and 4 hours later you're still watching TikTok?
Yeah. That's true. Actually, you know what? Maybe don't get TikTok. If you have a social media problem, probably not get to add another one into the mix.
Oh man, my problem is I need a quicker way because I take video and then I don't edit it. And Wally yells at me all the time about this, and then I don't put it up on YouTube. Lives are easier. I can sit down here, show geckos. I'm like, I don't have to edit nothing. I can just walk away.
Right.
It's just the editing part because I wish I could spend 4 or 5 hours a week in my room. I spend like 30, 35 hours.
Oh wow.
I mean, I pulled I hatched 19 today. I think that was how many I hatched out.
I think 19. That's what you said.
Yeah, 19, and I pulled about 80 eggs this morning. And then I'll do it again tomorrow. I'll probably pull around 30 to 40 eggs, and then tomorrow we got around another 40 due to hatch. I don't think I'm going to have 100 hatch day again or 100 egg day again for a while because I just put the new 40 females together. So it'll be a while, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'll start popping them out.
Hey, you got a full plate. See, maybe you should just switch to dart frogs, Gary. You'd have a lot more time to do editing and traveling.
I tell me about it. It's just like I have to breed year round. Everyone's like, "Why do you do this and do this?" I'm like, if I hatched everything at one time, I'd have thousands of geckos at one time. I don't want that.
Yeah, no.
That's why you see me at shows. You'll see all different stuff every show. It's all different because I've already went through those. They're already sold, and I got new babies.
Sure.
So
very cool.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Nico, because I know this was something. This is big for you. This is a step.
Yeah, it was cool to kind of break out and sit in front of a camera a little. Like I said, it wasn't too bad. I'll do it again for sure.
That's what I wanted to hear. So, all right, everybody.
Awesome.
We're going to let him go and do his fly cultures. That's going to be fun.
The Facebook user wanted to know, Gary, do you brewmate?
No, I don't brewmate nothing. I don't brewmate nothing. I just, my females ovulate. All my new ones, when they ovulate, and they go into that month. They're ovulating in March. You're the March group now. Yep, you're ovulating in November. You're in the November group now. That's how it goes. And I don't grow my females like some people do. I wait a year to year and a half to breed females. So, I feed them slow. You can power feed a gecko really quick and get them up to size in 7 months. I don't do that. You can do that with frogs almost too. You can power feed frogs.
Yeah, definitely.
You just feed them, they go boom. So, all right, guys. We'll go off air, and I appreciate everyone tuning in. Let's end that.